I'm more than confident that most people have been playing and loving Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5. Spider-Man on PS4 and its sequel Miles Morales were both great games, and Spider-Man 2 continues the streak. It's got great combat, extremely fun traversal mechanics, and even more unlockable suits. This game improved on so many things, but sadly took a step back in some other spots too. I think we should dig a little bit deeper and take a look at this amazing Spider-Man game. Spider-Man on PS4 and Miles Morales are both great games. I'm sure you've all played them and thoroughly enjoyed them. I have as well. So, of course, everyone was excited to play Spider-Man 2. I played it as soon as possible, and oh man, the opening is so good! Swinging through the city while Swing by Earthgang plays while Peter and Miles banter back and forth was so cool. And the new swinging animations were a much needed addition. The starting Sandman boss fight was incredibly fun too, and even managed to introduce the web wings in a natural feeling way. Honestly, I think this game has an extremely fun opening, and I would love to see something like this in a future Spider-Man game. I also thought the rest of the game's story was really good too, and perfectly paced. There weren't any points in the story that felt like they were overstaying their welcome or taking too long. The overall length of the game isn't all that long. It only took me about 12 hours to finish it. I know some people weren't fond of the length of the story, but I appreciate how it didn't take a super long time. It felt like the game had a story to tell, told it, and that was that. Anyways, moving away from the length, the story, like I said, was pretty good. There were so many funny and heartbreaking moments. Compared to the first game and Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2 has so many more sad and somber moments. Easily, the most heartbreaking part was the roller coaster scene on Coney Island.
Help! I'm sorry!
I'm gonna go off script for a second, like, how sad is that? He was fully aware of the fact that she was probably gonna die, and the first thing he said was, "I'm sorry." Like, that is just that is terrible. That is so sad. She does end up surviving at the end of the scene, but still, it's pretty heart-wrenching. It also goes to show how well done the voice acting is in this game, but I'll get more into it later. Other parts like the Scream boss fight and the Venom boss fight have some pretty somber dialogue as well, which makes the story even better in my opinion. Even some of the side quests have some pretty sad moments as well. I'm not trying to say that the entire game is depressing, I just noticed a lot more moments of it in this game. But like I said earlier, having these more downhearted moments boosts the story in my opinion. Thankfully, compared to the other Spider-Man games, this game has a bit more of a happier ending. Around the end of the game, Harry fully embraced the symbiote and turned into Venom, and the only way to separate them is to kill Harry, which of course Peter doesn't want to do. But after extracting the symbiote from Harry, he ends up passing. However, Miles is able to use his bioelectricity powers to start his heart again, so luckily Peter didn't have to lose someone else at the end of this game, unlike Spider-Man on PS4. So, while I did like all of the story in this game, there are a few things I want to say. Near the end, Venom takes over the entire city, leaving these symbiote nests and tendrils all over the place. I know we saw something like this in Web of Shadows, but in my opinion, it felt a little over the top. Maybe if it was something like a single building or a small area of the city, I wouldn't have any problems, but the entire city feels pretty overkill to me. This leads me into a question I would love to see get answered. How does the meteorite create more symbiotes? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the meteorite makes more symbiotes, which is why Venom wants it so bad. But how does that work exactly? I would genuinely love to hear the answer, because from what I know, it just doesn't make any sense. The last thing I want to mention was the ending to It Was Meant For Me. At the end of that side mission, we get a hint that Carnage might be playing a role in Spider-Man 3. We see the leader of the cult called the Flame take a container of the symbiote, even though it should have been destroyed at the end of the game? At least I'm pretty sure all of it gets destroyed. I could be completely wrong here, but I just wanted to point that out just in case. Other than those things, I don't have any other problems with the story. I think the team writing the story for this game provided another great narrative for players to experience. Same thing with the side stories as well, with some of my favorites being Find Grandpa and Monster and Queens. Speaking of side stories, why don't we get into the gameplay of Spider-Man 2? Let's start off with the combat, since that's one of the main focuses in this game. I think overall it took one step forward, then one step back. I think the game improved on the mechanics and speed of combat as a whole. The fighting feels faster and more stylish than before. Miles and Peter have different skills, which makes them feel completely different in combat. However, they got rid of the suit powers, which is extremely unfortunate. In Spider-Man and Miles Morales, some suits would have additional skills for you to use during gameplay. Of course, there are some joke skills like quips and vibe the verse, but every suit gives you additional abilities. This is something that doesn't make a comeback in Spider-Man 2. It's not a huge deal overall since we still have some pretty good abilities, but I don't see why they removed them. Not only does this affect combat, but it also removes some of the incentive to collect new suits. Some players might have only gotten the new suits to get the abilities that come with them, but now in Spider-Man 2 they're only cosmetic. They don't change anything gameplay-wise. Even if there are less reasons to unlock suits, there are still a lot of great designs. I'm so glad we have suits like the Raimi Black suit, the TASM 2 suit, and the Superior Spider-Man suit. And the fact some suits have color swaps is really cool too. Something else they removed that I wanted to mention was all the web gadgets. There still are gadgets to mess around with, but they really cut down on them. I actually really enjoyed using things like the impact webs or the web trip mine. I liked getting creative with all the different gadgets and using them in unique ways. There still are some cool gadgets in this game, but they did cut out some other cool ones too. Another small problem I had was how the focus is used in this game. You can't use small amounts of it to heal. It's got to be the full focus bar or nothing. It did make gameplay a little bit harder at times, but otherwise it wasn't that big of an issue. So, in the end, I think the combat has made improvements compared to the first two games, but they did also remove some things that I enjoyed in the previous games. Even with the features they removed or changed, the combat is still incredibly fun. I enjoy fighting off hordes of enemies and using all of my abilities because of how fun it is. So, even if they changed some stuff, it's still fun, which is important. Next, I'll quickly talk about the web swinging and some other miscellaneous stuff before I wrap things up. The web swinging has done nothing but change for the best in this game. The new animations are very refreshing to see, and the speeds you can travel at are so cool. I'll be honest, when I first saw the web wings, I was a little skeptical, but after using them for myself, they make moving through the city so much more fun. There are even wind tunnels that help you travel even faster, which helps out a lot. They added some new mechanics to the web swinging too, like the loop-de-loop and the slingshot launch. Both of these make swinging so much faster and infinitely more fun, and I hope they come back in the next Spider-Man game. Moving on to some more miscellaneous stuff, I loved the voice acting in this game. Yuri Lowenthal especially did a great job here. He seems to have improved a lot in this game, and I loved his performance here. Same thing with Najee Jeter too. I really feel like he doesn't get as much love as Yuri, but he does a wonderful job here too. Similar to the other games, there are plenty of collectibles and side quests. I always enjoy searching the open area for anything to collect or things to do, so more of it was pretty fun. I haven't collected everything or finished every side quest, but from what I've done so far, I definitely want to finish it all at some point. I thought the graphics in this game looked wonderful. The ray tracing and the shadows looked really well done. And New York is packed with traffic and civilians to make it feel more lively. This game just looks impressive all around, with all the newer models and next-gen lighting. Even if you aren't much of a gamer, you have to admit, this game looks awesome. It's safe to say Spider-Man 2 is a great game. It has such great swinging, fun combat, good characters, and a good story. I'm glad Insomniac has control of this series, because they have been doing amazing work with these games. I know I had a lot more complaints than I usually do, but that doesn't mean that this game isn't as good as the other Spider-Man games. Sure, there are some small issues like no suit abilities or less gadgets, but it's still incredibly fun. Spider-Man 2 added so many great features that I want to see come back in another Spider-Man game. I can't wait to see where this series goes next, because Spider-Man 2 really is an amazing game.